Well, yesterday was a huge historic day, marking the 79th anniversary since the D-Day landings, the Allied invasions of Normandy, but also a huge day to celebrate for all of us gamers for yet more content for Call to Arms, Gates of Hell, Ostfront. Hello again there, friends and fans. Raptor here, and yes indeed, WWII Studios, the makers of Call to Arms, Gates of Hell, Ostfront, have now announced a new DLC. On the Western Front, Liberation is the name of this DLC, and we're going to take a look at it here and talk about all the good things and possibly some of the bad things that this means for this franchise. And I'm very excited to showcase the trailer, give my first impressions, and talk more about this game as a whole and the power of the modding community, which yet again will probably take what the developers create for very professional looking models and maps and assets for them to use and absolutely blow it out of the water. Alright, well, let's go ahead and take our first look at the trailer, and we'll discuss all the upcoming changes and additions to the game.
Soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force, you are about to embark upon the great crusade toward which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you.
Wow, I'm really getting some Company of Heroes vibes from seeing that trailer, but I'm excited. That is the Call to Arms, Gates of Hell, Ostfront, Liberation DLC trailer, of course featuring what appears to be, obviously, just the American faction. No British, but we could possibly see some updates to the German forces on the Western Front as well, featuring a lot more equipment that we haven't yet seen from the Germans, and things that were specifically used, especially around the beaches of Normandy. Now, looking at the Steam store page for this DLC, it's not listed yet, so we don't have a release date, we don't have a pricing, and we don't have additional information, just this teaser trailer to drool over for the next few months until they release. But looking at their website for WWII Studios, it does appear that this will be coming out possibly in Q3, so anywhere between, it's possible between now and the end of the year. You never know, some things get released early, or perhaps, best case scenario, they push it back because there's issues and they take their time if there's something wrong. Don't want anything botched. If they have to push things back to the end of the year, possibly next year, totally fine with that as well. Tired of seeing golems, you know what I mean? But anyway, another great thing, though, is below that we see a new faction and DLC listed for next year, 2024. So my assumption for this, my best guesstimation, could be that we're going to see the British coming to Call to Arms, Gates of Hell, Ostfront, as well as possibly a North Africa campaign, maybe Italy, or maybe more missions for the Western Front for the Brits. I mean, there's so many opportunities here to bring in a new faction with new different types of landscapes that it's overall a good thing. But yeah, so I was thinking, this is great that they're adding a new faction in its own DLC, which means that, of course, we're going to have very handcrafted and very detailed missions, and this developer does a damn good job like they did with the Finnish DLC for the Lapland War, Continuation War, and the Winter War, where there were really great missions that focused on a lot of the different aspects of history and detailed vehicles, and really good voice acting, too. And so hopefully we get that for the Americans. I mean, from the longest time, we've had the same recycled Men of War and Men of War Assault Squad voice acting from all the mod makers. You may have seen the American faction before in this game, but those, of course, were all mods from other games. And the modding community, the amount of just craziness that's going to come to this game now, just for the Americans, is going to be great. We can see everything from I'm assuming it's going to focus mostly on the Normandy landings and the D-Day invasions in the area around that before the liberation of France. Perhaps it could end like how the Company of Heroes 1 campaign ends, with trying to close the pocket and get all the Germans out of France in the one last, surrender and one last big capture of their forces. But it could go all the way up to, potentially, I mean, we could see Battle of the Bulge, and we could possibly see maybe Market Garden, although I don't know if it'll go that far. But if the developers choose to just solely focus on 1944, and the Americans on the Western Front. I still think there's a ton of content here. However, I believe since it would be rather limiting, and if they were to include up to 1945, we could see a lot of great new stuff for the Germans in terms of vehicles and squads that we haven't yet seen, and of course a massive amount of things for the Americans, including all sorts of different Shermans, different rocket systems, new aircraft, paratroopers, and all sorts of different weapons. I mean, let's go. The paratroopers dropping in. We could see a new game mechanic as well, and possibly a new conquest mode to the game as well. I think now you can play as Finland and or against Finland too if you want to play as the Germans or the Soviets in the conquest mode. I think you could primarily focus on Finland. I believe that's the case. But this game has an amazing multiplayer. All the missions are co-op, and it's just a damn good thing. Now, honestly, they could have made a brand new game and had a much more broader focus on the Western Front. Obviously, Ostfront referring to the Eastern Front, which includes Finland and all the Soviet Union, and of course, the Soviets push into Germany as well towards the end of the war. But they could have, again, made a whole new game here and just called it Western Front or, many different names, and it could have played out almost like a Company of Heroes DLC, and it does seem to be going that way, at least in terms of them adding the British and the Americans, but it looks like they'll be doing that in separate DLCs, and I'm fine with that. Again, the handcrafted quality of these DLCs is very good. They put a lot of effort into the missions, and again, the modding community, just to name a few from everybody like Sturmfuhrer PK, Wigga, and Sir Henkel, and just many others that continuously create amazing mods, not just only individual missions, but in some cases massive campaigns. We could see a huge actually a recreation of some of the original Men of War or Men of War Assault Squad missions, or old mods as well. So this opens the door to a ton of stuff. Just it's awesome. Again, a little confusing that you have to get Call to Arms, Gates of Hell, Ostfront, the original Call to Arms, and then this new DLC. But I just looked earlier, and there was about 2,000, 3,000 people playing in the morning, and that's not just necessarily everybody playing in competitive multiplayer, but also in co-op missions too. So it'd be really cool to see how this plays out with somebody playing the infantry, somebody playing the tanks, and seeing a lot of those operations on D-Day. Now, this also does open it to possibly German defenses too. We could possibly see the Germans as a faction in this DLC on the Western Front. So we could get the the Wehrmacht forces in and around Normandy, and so we could kind of see almost two factions here. The Americans will be the brand new faction, but the Germans could be their own thing, obviously using different equipment on the Eastern and Western fronts. So there could be some missions for the Germans, and if not, damn well, modding community is going to pump it out. But I like what I see here. I'm happy to see more, and 2024 seems to be the last year for this developer in their roadmap so far of new content and new factions, and it could go well beyond that. This game came out in 2021, and the first year they kind of just added some free content, new missions, and things like that. And then last year in 2022, they added the Scorched Earth DLC towards the end, which featured a lot more missions in and around Stalingrad and lesser seen missions, or more larger, grandiose missions that they hadn't touched on since the days of, I think, even the original Men of War. But of course, then the Finland DLC, focusing on Finnish forces against the Soviets and Finnish forces against the Germans, and just like the whole defense of Finland as a whole, which was pretty badass, and some very brutal and hardcore cold-looking missions. So this developer is getting very good at atmosphere and making almost missions that really feel like you're there, because this does have third and first person modes for individual troops and also tanks. So if you wanted to play this out like the original Call of Duties, or something like that, a lot of first experiences on PC with people learning about the 101st and the Band of Brothers miniseries being out around that time. I don't think we'll ever get the Japanese, by the way, mentioning that and thinking about the Pacific. I'd love to see them as a faction. I would love to see the Marines and other Army units, both for the Japanese and the Americans, and other naval units and new planes. But that's a big one. I think that could almost be its own DLC that could be either full price of the original game or possibly its own. But I hope they continue to at least keep everything under this umbrella, so at least mod makers can get familiar with this gem engine with all of its current setup and don't have to switch between 2 or 3 games. But again, Call to Arms Gates of Hell is an insanely highly recommended game. You guys just absolutely love seeing it. I have enjoyed Men of War since the original Men of War, knowing about Faces of War and even games before that that were kind of predecessors, but really around the time of Men of War, and especially Assault Squad and Assault Squad 2 specifically with the ROPS Realism mod, damn. If you're looking for a realistic game, if you were bummed out from, Company Heroes 3 and you want to play something else, this is the best bet. And I really hope we see this developer take on Italy with the British later on. And I do hope that we also get to see American units in that too. It'd be great to see North Africa and Italy with the British and the Americans. But I do want to see other factions too, as well as, of course, not to forget the Canadians and the Polish and also the French resistance. It would be really interesting, really, really interesting to see some of those forces in this game, even if it were just in missions. Of course, some of the callouts, the special callouts in this game through specialty points do allow you to call out like more rare factions and units, and I would love to see that put to use and to get more units on the field, more variety, and more ways to play multiplayer. Competitive multiplayer, I had my time in there. I'm kind of done with that. I want to see more co-op missions and really more cinematic experiences from the devs and from the mod teams, such as like Old Boys missions. If you haven't seen those before, check those out on the channel as well. Old Boy missions are fantastic, but overall, I want to continuously see more and more from Call to Arms, Gates of Hell, Ostfront, more DLCs here, and of course, their original game, Call to Arms, which features like modern German, Russian, United States, and possibly some other factions too in there, I do recall. So it's a really great game to have. And I can't believe that this developer is almost like a small island in an endless sea of just kind of meh, really, when it comes to World War II stuff. Aside from like Call of Duty and this, I really don't know of anything else that and Call of Duty's kind of just, meh as well. Company Heroes was okay to me, but this is really the pinnacle and definitive World War II experience for RTS, and I hope we get more. Again, it's a great year so far for real-time strategy games. We've seen a little bit more from the Terminator Dark Fate Defiance game, and a lot of other games that are being hinted at, like Broken Arrow for modern audiences now again, or modern warfare, and it's great. I mean, anything from World War II to modern stuff is wonderful. I hope we continue to see more of it. I want to see more people, more developers blow it out of the water, but I am telling you, the modding community for this game continues to keep it fresh. I mean, there are literally there's literally Star Wars mods for this game with AT-ATs, and I don't know, the damn Millennium Falcon providing air cover and stuff like that. And there's even like Army Men DLC for this. Like, do you remember Army Men 3D? With the green and the tan and the gray and the blue forces. Man, I saw somebody playing that recently, the original game, and I was like, damn, we need that game back too. But anyway, yeah. So anyway, go ahead and let me know your thoughts down below, your concerns, your interests, and things that maybe are kind of maybe disappointing to you. I would say that this developer really had only 2 or 3 ways to go with this one: making a new game, making a massive DLC on the Western Front, or just small little factions. And I think this was probably the best way to go, because again, it's all a la carte. If you don't want to have anything to do with the Eastern Front and just want to play this DLC, you certainly can do that. You'll just have to kind of get the base game to do that, but it's cool. I mean, there's a lot of great content here, a lot of great missions, and hopefully much more to come. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions. Let me know what you're excited for. Let me know what mods you want to see, and let me know if you've ever played MetaWar Assault Squad 2 before, which is a great comparison to this game, but this one just runs so much better. Just one last note for those of you asking me to go back to MetaWar Assault Squad 2, man, I don't know. I mean, the way MetaWar Assault Squad 2 plays out, I mean, every other frame is dropped. A 30-minute mission will take about an hour. It's just so clunky and out of date now. But those mods were damn good, especially the Rob's Realism mod. But feels like a lot of that, including the stuff made from Sir Henkel, who now works for Barbed Wire Studios, or at least did at the time of the creation of the base game. A lot of love from the modding community, and fans of MetaWar Assault Squad are here in this game. And I believe this one is the true... really the defining way to go. This is like the main line. If you're trying to take good steps forward, this is going to be the one for those of you who are fans of realism and want a little bit more challenge. Obviously, if you walk a group of infantry in front of a machine gun in this game, they're all dead. They're not just pinned down, they may become pinned down, but you could lose a whole squad in the blink of an eye, including an artillery strike. So anyway, that's all the time I have now for MetaWar Assault Squad 2. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously, Call to Arms, Gates of Hell, Ostfront, Liberation, our first look at an American faction coming soon, and I hope to see you all soon again on the channel. Thank you to all you fine folks for watching. Thanks for hitting that like button so more people can find this damn game. Thanks for subscribing and turning on the notification bell. And thanks to all of you who support this channel by hitting that join button, getting access to perks and much more. Go ahead and smash that today. And 3 dots on the right side, if you swing that bad boy to allow, we'll let other people in our community gift you memberships as well. So enjoy all those emotes and come by and say hi whenever we're live. I'll see you all next time. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you soon.